and welcome to the Monday evening.
Love ball like I do. After Dark, it's a must listen.
That's where I go to get my hoops fixed.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
Welcome to Madison Square Garden for a Saturday night edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. After Duke absolutely thwarts Illinois. Just an unbelievable performance. 110 to 67.
You're out of breath after running up here just now.
I'm out of
Sprinting.
breath after watching that performance. I mean, they took
Brad,
everybody.
Brad Underwood's out of breath right now.
John Fantz, Jeff Goodman, Rob Dauster with you. 110 to 67. It is the worst loss by margin that Illinois has ever taken in the history of the program. Duke had 7 men in double figures. Their defense was unbelievable. Illinois from 3 went 2 for 26 in this game. Immediate reaction from MSG. Jeff, Duke, was this about Duke being maybe the nation's best, or was this about Illinois?
A combination, right? I mean, it can't be when it's that lopsided. It can't be one without the other as well. It was Duke's dominance, which we've seen throughout the season, and especially on the defensive end. I mean, how good are those guys? 3 freshmen that play that much, that none play like freshmen, and we've seen it. But to me tonight, it was just indicative of 2 different programs with both having young players, but one having poised, mentally tough, physically tough freshmen who, again, don't look like freshmen. And Duke came out of the gates and set the tone right away.
Yeah, this absolutely was more about Duke than it was about Illinois. Duke just ripped the soul out of Illinois. Like, you could see it in the second half. Brad Underwood used 2 timeouts in like the first 90 seconds of the second half because they're already down by 15, and Duke comes out and scores the first 10 points in the half, and it was over from there. And then it was just a rout. I'm every time I watch Duke play, I am more impressed by them. And I'm getting to the point where, I mean,
how can you not be?
I think they might be better than Auburn, and it might be a fact of.
I hate to tell you, but they did beat Auburn.
I know, but what I'm saying is,
it's not crazy to say.
But I feel like the consensus right now is that Auburn is the best team in college basketball. Right? I feel like that's where most people are. Is that Auburn is the best team in college basketball? I think
it was because of a weak ACC, and I don't think so tonight. I think as we're talking, us 3 at this table tonight, there are going to be people on the side of Duke's the national champion or that Auburn's the national champion. I think that there's a true now already on X tonight, Jeff. It's okay. Would you rather have Duke Auburn or the field? Like they're on
Duke Auburn.
Yeah.
I'll take Duke Auburn, please. And to me, I'll take that as the national title game. I think everybody would right now. They are the 2 best teams. They've proven it, and they've done it differently. As you said, I mean, Auburn's gone through the gauntlet of the SEC, and Duke's gone through maybe the weakest ACC we've ever seen.
You know what the thing about tonight was that was just incredibly impressive to me was Duke got whatever shot they wanted against Illinois, whatever shot they wanted in the first half. Wherever they wanted to go, they got there. Whatever they wanted to run, they were able to execute it. Whatever jump shot they were looking for, whoever they were trying to get to run off of screen, they were able to get that shot. Not every single one of them went down, but every single one of them was the shot that they wanted. I never felt like Illinois had any kind of impact on what Duke wanted to do on the offensive end of the floor. And this is a team that came in as a top 30 defense in America.
To me, what stands out is, I agree with everything you just said, but Jeff, in the first half, you look at the score, and they're up close to 20 points, and Cooper Flagg had 1 field goal made. Right. So for the person out there who's like, well, it's Flagg. This team, yes, Flagg is incredible, and he ended up having 16.7 rebounds and 5 assists. Mm-hmm. But when you can go into the locker room against Illinois and be up 54-37, they scored 54 points in the first half, and Flagg had 1 made field goal.
And you know what they weren't really doing a lot of? Trash talking. celebrating. None of that. This team reminds me a little bit of their workmanlike approach of Jay Wright's Villanova teams that won the national title.
I agree with that.
Right? They don't show a ton of emotion. They just go out and they kick your ass, and they do it in a very workmanlike manner.
Flagg has a Brunson-like personality.
Right? Doesn't show any emotion. Really, very minimal. Just goes out and beats your ass. Like, he really just sucks the life out of you.
And you know what else I noticed? And we just got done with post-game presser. I think we're seeing John Shire get fully comfortable.
Oh, completely.
With he loves his team.
Sure.
Like, he liked it, and he should. But he was so at ease just now with the press. And after a night like this, you should be. But I just think he said this to me just now. He said, my team embodies how I played.
Well, because last year's team, let's face it, their chemistry wasn't there. That was the biggest issue. This year's team, you can see it. Like, they're cheering for each other. They're not forcing things. They're not taking bad shots. I mean, it starts with Cooper Flagg.
No, it does. But the pieces that Shire brought in, and I think that is something that's gone a little bit under the radar when it comes to the way that he's built this roster, right? And we mentioned it at the start of the season. But when you have those young guys, and look, Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple, Common Malawach, to a point, those guys don't really play like they are freshmen, right? But they're still freshmen. They're still young. They still have that learning curve that, we saw Knipple go through a little bit of a rough spell there for a while. Like,
So
Malawach.
cerebral,
Yeah,
though.
but the thing is, the guys that he brought in, Mason Gillis, one, knows how to win. He spent 4 years at Purdue. Two, has no problem just being a guy that's like, hey, you know what? Go out there, rebound, be physical, be 6'6", 225, and knock down some threes and you're open. Sion James has no problem going out there and say, look, we're going to use you as a point guard sometimes. We're going to use you as a defensive stopper sometimes. We're going to use you as this big physical wing sometimes. And look, I mentioned this to you earlier. Tyrese Proctor was a guy that was on NBA draft boards as a point guard, right? As a point guard. A guy that was projected as a lottery pick by some. You can say that it was me that started the hype train. I don't care, whatever. But there was very real hype for him to be an NBA lottery pick caliber point guard. And he has not lived up to that. And he has remade himself as one of the best 3-and-D role players in college basketball. And I'll tell you this for the people that don't know. Tyrese Proctor is much bigger than you realize. Like, if you're watching him on TV, he looks like he's 6'1", 6'2".
Oh, yeah. He's 6'4",
he might even be like he's like 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah.
He's got long arms.
Yep.
He works his ass off defensively.
He's
one of
terrific defensive.
He's one of the best shooters in college. Like, he has remade himself into a 3-and-D role piece that fits perfectly alongside a superstar. And you know what that's going to do? That is going to make him be an NBA player. Tyrese Proctor is going to play in the NBA as a guy on the wing. That's my hot take.
You know what else?
It's not a hot take.
You know what else
It's
is
the
a
truth.
take?
I mean, you're right.
Here's a take that I have.
Go ahead.
Isaiah Evans needs you in the building.
I
every
know,
night.
right? This kid,
What do you make of him?
He's
What do you think?
again. You bring that kid off the bench. Caleb Foster got a little run tonight. We forgot about Caleb Foster. They didn't have Malik Brown.
Somebody
They
did
didn't
say to
have
me-
Malik Brown.
Somebody said to me in press row, wasn't this Foster kid supposed to be pretty good for this team?
Right. I mean, people thought he was going to be the leading scorer of this team
Mm-hmm.
coming into the year. And now, again, he plays a minimal role. They're deep. They're talented. They defend. They can score. What is their weakness, Rob? What's their weakness?
They don't really have one.
They don't have one.
They don't have.
What
There's
we
so many
said,
different ways that
right?
they can beat you.
The-
The weakness is they have so many young players going through the tournament for the first time, right? What's going to
You
happen?
worry about them?
No, and what's going to happen when they run into close games? Like, it's one thing to beat the absolute brakes off someone. What we've seen,
If they do.
they basically, I looked at this the other day. They basically played 5 games where there was real game pressure on them down the stretch. They lost to Kentucky in the Champions Classic, and there were some, like, Cooper Flagg made some turnovers down the stretch. They lost to Kansas in Vegas, and Cooper Flagg had those 2 missed shots down the stretch. They beat Auburn. They beat, I believe it was Wake Forest on the road when they came back,
Yes.
and Cooper Flagg did everything late. And then the slip at Clemson when Cooper Flagg had the flu, right? They're 2-3 in close games. But 2 of those losses came in November, and one of them came because the dude fell on a wet spot on the floor.
That's what I asked them tonight. I said, how much more comfortable are you at the end of the game now compared to early in the season? And he gave you the stock answer of, hey, I'm learning from every experience.
Villanova like the thing.
I'm telling you, like, had you thought of that before, Villanova?
No, your insightful mind just
brought
it to my brain. No, now, yes. Now I have thought a little bit about it.
There's a little bit to it.
There is a little bit to it.
Right? They're not – they kind of act like pros.
No, they're not talking at people tonight. They put on a performance.
Not at all.
There wasn't one testy moment. Illinois got their butt kicked, and we'll get to them in a moment because we need to turn to the Illini, and we know there's a fan base who's very concerned on this night. But I think it's what you just said. And Shire made this known on the press conference. It is the amount that this Duke team takes away from their opponent defensively. He said, I'm amazed. He used those words. He said, I'm amazed by our connectivity on that end of the floor. In other words, we all thought they'd be a potentially very strong defensive team when you have a player like Flagg coming in. But, Rob, I'm with you on this. This team is in all the right places at all the right times on that end. Illinois looked overwhelmed and outmatched. This was a Big Ten team that also is in a bad way right now. But for Duke to hold them, Rob, to 0 for 16 from 3 in the first half. I know there were some open looks that didn't fall. They were rattled. Did Duke hold them to that, or is Illinois kind of married to this idea that they're going to shoot a bunch of threes?
Like, I think at this point, this Illinois team is just broken. Like, Brad Underwood has tried so many different ways to this and make it work right and play the way that he wants to play and give these guys freedom and allow them to be able to do the pace and space and put these guys in actions where they can show off what they can do one-on-one. And it worked really, really well in like one game. And ever since that one game at Oregon, who, by the way,
remember what Rob said after that one game?
I said that this could end up being number 1 against number 2 in the country. That's dumb.
You were close.
I was close.
Brad Underwood post-game on whether Cooper Flagg is the best player in the country. Sure, it's not even close. He says it's not even close. Let's turn to the Illini. You just got beat 110-67. You're 17-11. Underwood just tells the press, he indicates he hopes that they can get Morris Johnson back by the Big Ten tournament. Johnson broke his wrist last weekend against Michigan State. What has caused the train to go this far off the tracks for Illinois?
I think there's a couple of things that have happened here. One is that the youth has caught up with them, right? I think that Kasper Siakashonis and Tomislav Ivicic aren't ready for this level of physicality yet. I think that getting some guys injured, having that bout of sickness that they had, right? I think that has also been a problem for them too. Like they were saying that Tommy is down, like 15 pounds right now from everything that he dealt with, right? So I don't think that they are quite 100% physically. I think that their confidence is absolutely shattered. Like if you're Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn or you're Trey White, and you go from being a guy that's averaging 13 points a game to being someone that is not playing and coming off the bench and not getting any minutes, like literally not getting any minutes, to starting again against Duke in the Garden and being the team's leading scorer in a game where you lose by 685 points. Like that messes with your head. Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn, that messes with your head. And I think that trying to tweak everything so much has turned this into something where nobody really knows what they're supposed to be doing or has confidence in what they are doing. And I think that's a little bit of a problem that you have there. And the other part of it is, like, if you have a team, let's talk about it in the first half, right? The first half of this game, Illinois shot 46% from the floor. They were 0 for 16 from 3. They were 15 for 18 from the line.
That's actually unbelievable.
And I understand that Illinois wants to be a team, and they've kind of tried to build this roster in a way that you have playmaking ball handlers and KJ and Kylan Boswell, put them in ball screens, space the floor, let them kind of create and spray the ball out to shooters on the perimeter. You don't have the shooters. They're not making the shots. Like, go to the rim, do something different. Like, how many times are you going to have these 4 for 28 shooting performances before you say, hey, look, you know what? This isn't working. What's the definition of insanity, Jeff? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
What has gone wrong for Illinois?
It's funny, the one thing I was talking to members of their staff right before the game, and I said, like, this is a great game for you, great opportunity. You know, as long as you don't get blown out, this is a good opportunity for you guys to get some momentum back. And this was the only thing that couldn't happen to this team, because
this was beyond blowout.
As Rob said, yeah, they're broken now. And now, how do you get this back? How do you get your swagger back? Guys are questioning themselves. They don't know their roles at this point. Like Rob said, like you're playing the same way. You're doing the same thing over and over. It's not working. And are you really going to change it on February 22nd? I mean, I guess what do you have to lose? I mean, certainly I wouldn't have them shooting that many threes. I mean, that has proven over and over again not to work. So take it to the basket. Yeah, you're going to play a little bit of the Tom Izzo. That's how you're going to play, right? And not take, you're going to take some twos instead of threes.
All right, I have a question for you, Jeff, and you have to answer this, okay? So the knock on Duke has been that they don't get tested when they play in the ACC.
Right.
And they went out and they played a team that was supposed to be from the Big Ten that was supposed to be their test.
Yeah.
And they absolutely beat the brakes off that team from the Big Ten that was supposed to be their test. Does this mean that Duke is awesome, or is this just another example of Duke not being tested?
I think they caught the right team at the right time. You know, I mean, listen, Illinois hasn't been playing well. We know that. Like, they're not playing well on both ends. That's the biggest thing is you can look at it offensively and say they didn't make a shot. I'll flip it and say it was much worse defensively. It was embarrassing. The way they guarded was a joke. It was like watching AAU basketball tonight.
It's like a practice.
A bad, not your kid's AAU team, but a bad AAU team. Your kid's team probably guards better than that.
Well, first of all,
they're not AAU.
My son is 9. He's not going to play AAU.
Right.
Second of all, you're not even allowed to play travel basketball in the state of New Jersey until you get to fourth grade.
Listen, we don't need to
just
be like
it's just rec. It's just a town.
You know?
We have a lot to get to on the show tonight. Not one of which is 9-year-old basketball, but
honestly,
I will say it was a
like
glorified scrimmage in the second half.
Yeah,
it was. If you
I mean,
were paying
that walk-on
attention,
came on, hit the shot of the game.
Yep.
For Duke.
Yes, Spencer came into the game and buried a 3 that sent the building into as loud of a frenzy on the night. It was, I want to make sure, Spencer Hubbard, who was a prior walk-on. But I just think that when you come out and Sion James, this is when you know it's not going to be a good night for Illinois. Sion James has hit multiple threes in 3 games this season prior to tonight. He hit 2 threes in the first 3 minutes of the game. But Illinois said, we're going to let him shoot. That was part of the game plan.
Part of the game, and this goes to the issue of the confidence, right? Part of their game plan was we are going to dare – they're going to try to play Sion James like teams used to play Andre Jackson at UConn, right? Or how they used to play.
If you're in Illinois, you can't match up with them 5-on-5.
No, I know, but here's the problem with that, and the problem with the way that played out is your game plan was we're going to dare this guy to beat us, and he beats you. When you played Michigan State the other night, your game plan was we're going to dare Jackson Kohler to beat us, and Jackson Kohler beat you. And so now, not only do you have all of this other stuff going on, now as a player, the coaching staff's game plan, not only did it not work at home against Michigan State when you blew a 16-point lead at home, but now within the first 3 minutes, it's completely blown up. If you
better have plan
B. You are a player on this roster, like, are you going to, like, when they come out with their next game plan in the next game that Illinois plays, if you're Iowa, if you play Iowa and they're like, we're going to do this,
is that at Iowa?
Is your first reaction going to be?
It is in Champaign.
Okay.
What's your first reaction going to be? Like, do I want to
defend like they did tonight? Iowa leads the Big Ten in scoring.
You start to. You're right. You do as a player right now start to question the coaching staff, right? Because a lot of kids that are 19, 20 years old aren't looking in the mirror, right? They're looking for blame. And they're going to blame it on the coaching staff right now. And this could be a team that completely fractures.
Well,
could be.
Yeah, we got a break, but here's the last thing I would say. For a while, they were exceeding everybody's expectations.
Yes.
They lost virtually everyone from last year's Elite 18. So we have to also adjust. Like, if they make they're going to make the tournament. If they win a game in the tournament, I know Illinois fans don't want to hear this, but then you go into next year and you have some momentum and you portal the right way. When you're playing the game that they did in the offseason, the variance was going to be high.
This season is so emblematic of the Illinois fan base.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
I think we might want to take a break.
Yes. Cut. Dagan, go to commercial. Go to commercial.
Coming up. Speaking of fan bases, Mama Hog and the Hog fans are fired up tonight. John Calipari is back in the equation and getting his big dance shoes dusted off and maybe eating some Tyson chicken strips while doing it. That's next on After Dark.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68. Bet insurance tokens, odds boosts, and what I love, a nice parlay boost or two here or there. Be sure to keep your eye out in the app for the Field of 68 specials that we'll be running throughout the season as well. So go download the BetMGM app to sign up today. College basketball fans, are you ready to take your hoops game to a new level? Whether you're a seasoned bettor or just trying to win your March Madness office pool, Rhythm is here to give you the edge this season. With data-driven predictions for every single college basketball game left on the schedule, Rhythm helps you maximize your bets. And as March Madness kicks off, Rhythm's insights will help you spot those plucky Cinderellas that you know are going to shake up the NCAA tournament. But that's not all. When Selection Sunday rolls around, let Rhythm's AI-powered bracket generator do the heavy lifting for you. This is the same AI tool that performed 35% better than the average ESPN bracket last year. And here's the best part. Rhythm pairs perfectly with our Field of 68 expert analysis, giving you the 1-2 punch that you need for the rest of the college basketball season. So don't wait. Download Rhythm today and get ready to see college basketball and your betting results in a whole new light.
Welcome back to the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, for the Field of 68 After Dark, where we watch Duke beat Illinois 110-67. John Fanta, Jeff Goodman, Rob Dauster with you as we head to Fayetteville. Missouri coming off a 110-98 win over Alabama. It was a statement maker, but timing is everything in conference play. And you thought coming into tonight that if Arkansas was going to get that move-the-needle bubble win, maybe this was their opportunity. They've been playing better. They're at home. Missouri's riding a high. Arkansas does it. 92-85, a big quad one win. Arkansas now has 4 of those. They're 16-11, but more importantly, they just beat Missouri. What does this win mean for John Calipari?
Well, we had him in our Field in 68 every Monday and Friday at 5 o'clock Eastern.
Nice plug.
We had him right outside of first 4 out. So this win was critical for them because now you've got the win at Kentucky, this win, and a win at Texas. Now you've got so many opportunities in the SEC. I mean, their resume still isn't very impressive, but so many opportunities that if you pick off a few, you're going to end up getting in. They're 4 games under 500 right now in league play. And as long as they stay that way, I think they absolutely get in. And the key tonight,
and they should be able to stay that way, right?
Yeah,
look at their schedule the rest of the way. Texas at home, at South Carolina, right? Both of those should be wins.
Just can't lose to the Gamecocks on the road.
At Vanderbilt, which Texas did tonight, at Vanderbilt, and then Mississippi State at home.
Sure, you should win 3 of the 4.
They should very easily, not very easily. They should win 3 of those 4.
If you win 3 of the 4, you're not in the first 4. If you win 2 of the 4, you might be in the first 4, depending on what you do in the SEC tournament. But the biggest key tonight was Big Z. Big Z came to play, and they're different when he makes shots. Again, the guards are good, right? Like you're going to get something now out of Nelly Davis for the most part. Without Boogie Flan, he's been much better. I actually want to give DJ Wagner credit because I think he has gotten better this year. He's never going to be the player that people wanted him to be or made him out to be in high school when he was the number 1 player in the country. But I think he has taken a step, and he knows kind of who he is now instead of trying to be something that he's not. But I think, again, Big Z, they got to get something from their bigs.
Well, you know what it was? The way that they've kind of built this team is, all right, we're going to space the floor. We got all these guys that can get to the basket, and you're not going to be able to have a rim protector because that big 7'1" goof
out there shooting threes.
He's going to knock down all those threes. And the other night against who did they lose?
He was like 0 for 9.
Who was that? Was it against Alabama? It was Alabama. Yeah. No, who'd they play? I can't remember who it was. But because he was 0 for 9 for 3. He didn't make a single shot. And that's part of why they were not. It was Auburn. That's why they weren't able to win that game. But look, I'll tell you this, and I say this all the time. At the end of the day, there is no actual like we could sit here, we could talk about the net, we could talk about KenPom, we could talk about quad whatever victories, right? At the end of the day, the bracket is made by 10 human beings sitting in a room around a table just like this with a laptop here, a bunch of papers here, phones over here, nitty-gritty sheets. And those human beings are going to be in that room and they're going to make – they are nitty-gritty sheets. They're going to make a list of who they want to be in the tournament. And you cannot tell me that there isn't some kind of inherent bias, whether or not they're making it – whether or not it's intentional –
if they can validate, if they can justify putting John Calipari in Arkansas in the field,
yes,
they will absolutely put him in the field.
Well, they just got their justification today because Missouri was coming off a massive win. They're getting a lot of pub. They're still going to be in the top 20, if not hovering around the top 15, even after a road loss to Arkansas because they beat Alabama and put 110 points on them. Here's the thing. If you look at the bubble is soft. This bubble is proving why the NCAA tournament getting expanded is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And it's not just because the name of this network is the Field of 68. Arkansas has 4 quad 1 wins. If you look at the other teams on the bubble, some of them have none. SMU being one of them.
Our first 2 teams out of the field. Right. Our first 2 teams out of the field on Friday when we did Fielding 68 every Monday and Friday, 5 p.m. On the Field of 68 YouTube channel. The first 2 teams out were VCU and SMU. VCU, I got it right here. 0-1 in quad 1 games, 7-3 in quad 2 games with a quad 4 loss to the Seton Hall Pirates. SMU, 0-5 in quad 1.
SMU is in.
SMU is in. All right, SMU is in one of the playing games.
They shouldn't be.
0-5 in quad 1 games, 7-2 in quad 2 games. No, but their best win is against Pitt.
That's not
their best win is against Pitt.
I mean, it shouldn't even be allowed. If you haven't beaten a tournament team, an at-large tournament team, you shouldn't be allowed to play in the tournament.
How is their resume any different than a mid-major?
It's not. It's not. I'd rather see Drake. Give me Drake if they lose in the championship game of the Valley.
Or Akron.
Over SMU. Or Akron, right. Because they didn't have the opportunities. They didn't have the opportunities.
And because why?
And my guess is if they had them, they would have picked off somebody.
Well, see, that's the problem now, though. Like, what happened today in the SEC took us such a big step closer to having a 13-team SEC 13-bid SEC because Vanderbilt won. We had Arkansas win. We had Oklahoma win. All 3 of those teams beat ranked opponents that were quad 1 wins.
But that's different from the ACC, which has bubble teams that haven't done much of anything.
SMU lost.
At least these SEC teams got wins in the non-conference. And today, Oklahoma, they had to win today.
No, they earned it in November and December. The problem is, I think here's the issue now, is because of where we're at now with so many portal entries, the changes in the roster. I just think it's hard right now to say that November and December actually means as much. And I fought that.
No. I entirely disagree with that. And what you're about to say, just stop saying it.
No, I'm telling you.
What other sport? So should we
saying,
just completely discount games when a player isn't there?
That, but I kind of like the last 10 meaning more now.
Okay, so how about this?
I do.
Yeah, you know what?
You know who they are in November.
And you know what? That happens in every sport. So what do you? No, here's what you're going to do. You're going to say only the last 10 games matter more, which means that in November and December, all of these games where we are already fighting for college basketball to get attention, for people to care about those games, you're going to say those are even less meaningless, even more meaningless than they are right now. That's what you're doing. That is a horrible take. No. How about this? These
teams are forced to portal.
Who
They've
cares?
got all these new players.
Who cares?
And
suck it up and deal with it. Everyone's playing with the same rules. Everyone's dealing with the same rules. And if that's what you're going to do, then do it. This is like saying that after an NBA team, like if there's a trade deadline trade, a big trade of the trade deadline, after that trade, we should evaluate the wins differently. No, the wins matter. Everyone plays who's on their schedule. Every win matters. Every game matters exactly the same. And if you want to change it, if you're going to say stuff that happens in November, why would you ever play
as a human being looking at the resumes? I'm going to look at it a little bit differently.
He's saying
that's fine.
I'm going to look at it, and I'm
reason number 653 why Jeff Goodman should never be allowed in the NCAA selection committee room.
Here's what he's saying. He's saying it's easy to go out on a couple of dates. It's another thing to actually make it a real relationship and then be committed to the person and put a ring on that finger.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is in November and December, when you're speed dating and going out for some half-price appetizers, that's nice and all. But you're supposed to have the parents meet. You're supposed to go out for a steak dinner. You're supposed to drop a lot of money, and you're supposed to say, honey, I want you.
Just hard. It's hard to know. You're trying to figure things out.
Yes.
You're and by now, yes, you should know. And again, I just think we build these conference resumes in November, December, and I understand it. And I've actually been in favor of it for a long time. And now what I'm saying is the landscape has changed so much that I'm not sure I'm on that train of that every game when I'm looking at the resumes should mean the same. I just think I'm going to give a little more credit to what they've done lately. I just do. Like Oklahoma, these wins early. Come on, Oklahoma caught people off guard. We know what they are now. Like they're not.
Wait. No. Stop. Now, if you catch people off guard because people don't think you're going to be as good, now that win doesn't count anymore. Like that is just stop.
I just don't think they're the same team. I don't think they're the same team.
Okay.
I don't.
All right.
The show will just. We win. Better. There we go.
The show just
Wait,
hit
you came back already?
Gear, yeah.
I thought you were leaving.
It's a ridiculous take. Yes. You know what, Jeff? Breaking news. Teams change over the course of an entire season. But pretending like what happened in November doesn't matter as much as what happens in February means that nobody is going to play games in November and nobody is going to watch games in November.
I'm not saying
all you're doing is feeding into
all I'm saying is I don't think the SEC.
This is what happens when you spend too much time at ESPN. You get this
good.
idea that college basketball only matters in February and March.
I just don't think the SEC is as good as what people make it out to be. And now you've got all these opportunities because they did win some games in November and December with some teams that frankly aren't as good.
So the best win that the SEC got in November was Kentucky beating Duke.
Yeah.
Kentucky has an entirely new roster. So what are you even saying?
No,
they have veteran players.
You know what?
They were an outlier.
No. Oklahoma got some great wins.
No, there are outliers.
Oklahoma got great wins in November and December with a freshman point guard that it was 17 years old when he came in, and because it was unexpected that this freshman point guard was going to be good, let's just not count those Oklahoma wins. Now, I will say this. I do think that there's an argument to be made that if you are like, we should not have 6 and 12 teams in your conference in the NCAA.
Well, you're going to in the SEC.
If you expand, there needs to be some kind of rule where you get more A-10 teams in, you get more Mountain West teams in, you get more teams that win games.
The people that wanted to expand aren't the ones from those conferences, which is ironic to begin with. Let's move on here. Stay in the SEC, where there were other games happening. I want you to talk for a moment about the job that Mark Byington has done because Vanderbilt beat Ole Miss. Vanderbilt really needing this win. They are 18-9. They've stacked together quality wins. They've been really tough at home, and in this victory, Jason Edwards had 15 points. Chris Mannon gave them 16 points as well. They've got balanced scoring. They can shoot the three. Vandy, under Mark Byington, of first-year coaches across the country, where's the job he's done?
Man, well coached. I mean, I remember seeing him in Charleston. I was like, the talent's okay, right? I mean, you got A.J. Hogard, Tyler Nickel, a bunch of guys that frankly, a lot of programs didn't really care if they left and transferred elsewhere. And Byington takes over the job. A lot of people are like, is he going to get things done? Or, Vandy, tough job. Obviously we know what Stack didn't exactly crush it over the last few years. But I think he put together a team that, again, doesn't have a superstar, but they're so disciplined, well coached. They defend. They can make shots. I think Edwards has been pretty darn good this year.
What are you laughing at?
I have some breaking news.
Go ahead.
It's some really troubling news in the world of college basketball.
What do we got?
Southern Miss men's basketball coach Jay Ladner said after the post-game loss to Louisiana.
I hope it's not about Curbelo.
Curbelo has been dismissed from the team. Did you know Curbelo was still playing?
Yes.
I had no idea he was still playing.
I've been texting with Jay Ladner about Andre Curbelo because I have a soft spot for Andre Curbelo.
That just blew my mind.
Rob, give me this here as we move, and then we'll move on to the other marquee games. If we look at Oklahoma now, in the SEC, this is a 4-10 team. We know that conference record does not determine, but at the end of the day, they're still 4-10 in their league. And I got some facts. Yeah,
you're going to put them in.
So here's how they finished.
No, I don't want them in.
Here's how they finished. They're home to Kentucky on Wednesday night.
Big game.
They're at Ole Miss. Don't see them winning at Ole Miss. No. They're home to Missouri.
So let's say they split
and
those two
they're
at home.
Texas. And by the way, Texas, they might be out of the field now in our next field.
So you're going to be happy to go 2-2. You're going to be honestly, they're probably going to maybe go 2-2 if they're lucky. And
All right, I'm going to say it then.
That puts them at 6-12.
If a 6-12 Oklahoma team that loses their first SEC tournament game makes the NCAA tournament, that is an abomination.
Yeah,
yes, no, I
shouldn't happen.
I totally agree with you, and I will say that I don't have any sympathy for SMU and what they're dealing with in the ACC.
Yeah,
but I don't think that you can look at someone like VCU's resume and say that just because they don't have, like, if Oklahoma gets in over VCU, because Oklahoma would end up being at that point, they would be 7-11 in quad one opportunities, right? If they're 7-11 in quad one opportunities and VCU doesn't get in because they're 0-1 because they play in a different conference,
that's tough.
Because their MTE ended up having 3 teams that weren't as good as the SEC teams, like that should not happen.
But look at SMU, who they scheduled in the non-conference, and some of it was probably done. It's Andy Enfield's first year
one.
But look at these teams: Tarleton State, Florida A&M, UNC Greensboro. You lose to Butler, Prairie View A&M. You lose at home to Mississippi State, Cal Baptist, Washington State, Alabama State, Virginia, LSU. I mean, come on, it's awful. Awful.
Yeah, SMU. I would prefer them in the tournament because they've won 20 games over in Oklahoma.
I would not prefer them.
Over.
You know what I prefer?
Oklahoma.
You know what I prefer? We go back to 64. That's what should happen.
Well, that's definitely not happening.
That's what should happen, though.
Let's move.
I mean, the expansion crap. Seth Davis, enough. What are you doing? Look at the resumes. Christ's sakes.
I haven't heard, you haven't given us an enough 4 in a row in a while, so I wasn't prepared for that. Let's turn to a top 10. That was great. Top 10 showdown in College Station. Yeah. Buzz Williams and the Aggies, were they going to respond? Rick Barnes and Tennessee get a big win, 77-69. Chaz Lanier had a season-high 30 points.
Yeah.
I know we talk about the top of the country, but if Lanier and Ziegler are doing this, in Tennessee, can they not compete, beat anybody?
And I was scared early because Texas A&M came out of the gates in that one, and, man, defensively, their pressure right out of the gates, I was like, man, this could be a long day for Tennessee.
They had 4 dunks in the first 3 minutes of that game.
So, but Chaz Lanier just kept them in the game. He did. Single-handedly, he kept them in the game. I mean, what do you have, 22 in the first half?
In the first half, 6 of 7 for 3 in the first half. He finished with 8 threes.
And that's what he can do. That's what he allows Tennessee to do. In the old days, it was, listen, if you weren't making shots, like they didn't have anybody else that they could just rely on before Dalton Connect and now Chaz Lanier. Those guys can keep you in long enough, and then you see what Ziegler can do with some of their other guys, and they can guard, man. They play hard.
There was a change in how they were going and how Tennessee wanted to target players and recruit players. Instead of recruiting guys that were going to defend and great defenders and try to teach them how to be offensive weapons, what they started doing was, we're going to go recruit guys that can score, that can get buckets and know what they're doing on that end of the floor, and we'll just teach them how to guard because that's what we do. We teach people how to guard. So they changed the way that they were identifying that. And I will say this. I think that tonight was evidence of what has to happen for Tennessee to be able to make a Final Four. Tonight was proof to me that Tennessee can make a Final Four. Because on the nights,
they would have last year if they didn't run into Purdue.
On the nights when their guards are making shots like this, right? Because it wasn't just Lanier. Zakai Ziegler hit a huge 3 at the end, a dagger. Justin Gainey hit a bunch of shots in the second half. When those guys are making plays like that, they are much more difficult to guard than they had been in the past.
Jordan.
And Jordan Gaines. I'm always going to get those two confused. It is.
Can I say this though? Is there been a more nationally a guard who's been steadier throughout the course of his career and tougher, and he just doesn't get brought up as the best, but he's just so damn good. If there's a guard who embodies Tennessee, it's Zakai Ziegler. Yeah,
because he guards at a high level. He makes people better. What's his record? His record has got to be insane,
win percentage has to be like 85.
Right. I mean, this guy, and he's tough. Like, Rick Barnes raves about him. This is a team that, again, can beat anybody. And now I think the beauty for them is they've got enough guys that are capable offensively. Like Igor still has shown over the last month or so, he's capable of leading this team in scoring when Chaz has an off night. And when
Meanwhile,
Chaz is on, man, there aren't many better.
A&M showed why it's hard to trust them.
Yeah, like their two guards were what? Like 2 for 22 from 3?
Wade Taylor and Zurich Phelps
what were they
combined 1 for 16 from 3 and 10 for 32 from the floor. I was going to say that they would fit really well on Illinois' roster, but Illinois makes every shot they take from inside the arc.
5 for 30 from 3. Yes, Tennessee's defense very good, but it was in College Station. You got to be better than that. And Taylor really did struggle 4 of 15 from the floor.
That's what happens.
Doing it, we have to break.
Yeah, but that's what happens with just real quick. That's what happens with Tennessee is because they have the perimeter defenders. Like
I'm not the producer.
yeah,
so
they have the perimeter defenders. They when you have guards that can turn the water off for the other team's best players, and those guards are also capable of going for 30 on any given night. Like that's why Tennessee is as good as they are. That's where they can win. How long do you think I could just keep talking before Dagan just throws it right
to bed? Up next, we go to Houston. Cougars and Cyclones. Iowa State gave the Cougars a fight.
Yeah.
It sure did. We'll recap that game. We'll head down to Tuscaloosa where Kentucky started hot. Could they be able to withstand the Alabama run? And a surprise in the Big Ten earlier today. And a team out west that showed maybe let's not write them off in terms of a potential March run. This is After Dark.
There is no sport in America that is more difficult to follow than college basketball. It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for injury updates, recruiting news, and transfer portal editions that actually matter. For just $50 a year, get access to the same information that your favorite team's coaching staff is subscribed for. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help you with that. Would you be surprised to find out that the Field of 68 is home to more than 35 podcasts? More than 25 team-specific podcasts that are hosted by the people that know what fans want the most. The Goodman and Hummel podcast, the DTF podcast, the A10 Insider podcast, and the Mountain West podcast. But wait, there's even more. The Field of 68 will be launching the ACC Insider podcast this year. Subscribe to this channel and come along for the ride.
Welcome back to Field 68 After Dark from Madison Square Garden. John Fanta, Jeff Goodman, Rob Dauster. It was awesome in here. I mean, we can't. When we're back here, you guys are back here tomorrow at noon for St. John's.
We got 12 hours
and UConn.
It's about 12 hours.
Yep.
We'll be back here for Hurley Patino. Can't wait.
Yeah,
Can't wait.
It'll be mayhem. Yeah. Let's head down to Houston, where I'll tell you what, watching this game in the second half, I already respected Iowa State. But my respect for them went even higher because of the way that they made Houston work without Keyshawn Gilbert and Curtis Jones. They made them make tough shots. But, Jeff, to me, final score, Houston 68, Iowa State 59. L.J. Cryer had 28 points. And this Houston team feels different from a shot-making perspective.
I've always said, like, L.J. Cryer is a top 5 shooter in the country. If you're telling me I can have 5 guys, game in the line, shooting a 3, L.J. Cryer would be one of them. You know, he's been around forever. He's done it over and over. And I just feel like for Houston, we haven't seen that many of those games for him in a while. And, you know, the beauty is really Uzan's been really good lately. So it's taken some of the pressure off. They've got Sharp. You know, Arsenault hasn't done that much. But to me, if Cryer can – my biggest concern for them is obviously scoring the ball. They have enough, you know, because we know they're going to play teams. I mean, they held Iowa State to 59 today. They're going to play teams in the 60s most nights. Can they score enough? And that's where L.J. Cryer, he's got to do this more often.
Well, and it wasn't just making shots. It wasn't just catching, shooting open threes. Like, he was creating stuff himself. He hit like 4 or 5 step backs over Tamin Lipsey over some of those really good Iowa State defenders. And his shot making in the second half, we were watching it over at Schaefer's, and every one that he took, I was just like, oh, it's another one, right? And Milos Uzan, his development, we said this the other night, right? His development into being a playmaking leader for them, into being able to embrace that role a little bit more than he did. I think he needed to be more selfish than he's been. And what I mean by that is sometimes when you're a guy like him and you're coming into a program that has, a certain core already established, certain veterans already there, certain players that are the leaders, certain guys that are leading scorers, who's going to get shots in certain times. It's very easy to show up as a point guard and just blend in and try not to rock the boat and try to make sure that you're getting the ball to the guys that need to get the ball. And sometimes the best thing that you can do as a point guard, the best thing you can do is go out there and make the shot and take the shot yourself. Go out and create something for yourself, because he made he made a big three, and they had a runner in the lane here that kind of iced the game down the stretch. He's done that before. It was a couple of games ago he did the same thing. Like, those two have really developed into a really solid 1-2 punch. And well,
it takes time to adjust to Kelvin Sampson. I mean, think about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take time. And what Kelvin told me back in November when he was struggling was he was going east-west way too much instead of going north-south. Now, what does he do? He attacks.
Yeah, he's going to the basket. He's looking to score. He's being aggressive. He understands that there are times where the best shot that Houston can get offensively is him going and trying to make a play. Because I mentioned this the other day. I think that one of the cheat codes to be able to be successful at the college basketball level is maximize the number of possessions that you have, and then do the thing that is the most efficient thing in college basketball when you get them. Force turnovers. Houston's top 10 in the country in turnover rate. Get offensive rebounds. Houston's top 10 in the country in offensive rebounding rate. And make threes. And Houston is top 10 in the country in three-point shooting percentage.
That's crazy to me.
They don't shoot a ton of them, but they make them when they shoot them.
Yes, and here's the other thing about Houston. They're now 29-2. 29-2 in their last 31 Big 12 regular season games. The 2 losses, can you guess?
Insane.
One was at Kansas.
Yep.
I was there for that one. Kansas,
and the other this
them.
year to Texas Tech.
Oh, that's right.
They
Yeah.
have wild games, huge win. I mean, today you're without Keyshawn Gilbert, you're without Curtis Jones.
Yeah.
And
like you said, though, Iowa State proved a
looked,
ton to me. Yeah. I mean, not that they needed to.
Nate Heisey stepped up.
Yes.
Tamin Lipsey was good.
Yeah.
And Jefferson only shot 1 for 9.
Mm-hmm.
But he had 8 assists.
Yeah.
And Jay Billis said on the broadcast, he goes, I thought Jefferson was good. He goes, I didn't think he was this good.
Right. He is this good. And when they're healthy, and they really haven't been healthy, I mean, how long has it been? Think about this.
The whole
Lipsey's
season.
been hurt most of the season.
I think
he'll probably have surgery, I would guess, at the end of the year.
I think they could be what 2019 Texas Tech was to that Final Four. Iowa State could be that type of team.
I just worry. I don't think Lipsey's himself. And that's when I kind of said to myself, I don't know if they're a team that can go to the Final Four with Lipsey playing at 75%.
Let's move on. Let's go to Tuscaloosa. Alabama 96, Kentucky 83. Kentucky started well. They were up 20-9. They were making shots early on. You know, the Andrew Carr comes out. Kobe Brea was sizzling from 3. And then, man, there goes that man again, Rob. Mark Sears had 30 in this game. Honestly, if you had told me that this is how it was going to go before the game, I would have said, yeah, that sounds about right. And
well, thought you said 20 last night. I said double figures when we talked about this game.
You were correct. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What was
you were right. It was a 13-point game, somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on Alabama beating Kentucky?
So I thought Alabama, when they decided to turn up their defense and they finally dialed it up about midway through the first half, they immediately went on a 24-4 run. And I thought there was a really interesting quote from Nate Oates after the game. He was asked about some of the really quick lineup changes that they had and guys coming in and playing like 2 or 3 possessions and getting yanked right back out. And he said that there would be zero tolerance for a lack of effort, ignoring the scouting report, and for turnovers. And the quote was, that's the way that it is going to be moving forward. So I think what happened was he kind of got sick of seeing the mistakes that popped up against Auburn. And frankly, seeing the mistakes that were all over the place in the loss at Missouri, because that was frankly, and embarrassing. That you can't give up 110 points to Missouri if you're Alabama and you want to be a team that can win a national championship. And
so you think giving up 83 points to a Kentucky team playing without a point guard, is that good defense for Alabama? Or
I thought the
defense?
last 30 minutes was really, really good defense. Like
kind of
Kentucky,
speaks to how inconsistent they are defensively.
Yeah, it is. But you also got to remember, there's a lot like
Not in a bad way. It's
with
just-
Alabama, you have to put everything into context because they're always going to play more possession. They're just going to be more
and they
possessions.
score
Yeah.
85 plus points a game.
Yeah, I was so in on earlier this season, and now I really question whether they're going to be a return Final Four team. And I had a lot of confidence they were going to get there. By the end of the year, they were going to hit their ceiling. I don't know. I just don't see it. I mean, they're still without Darren Reed. He's out again. Their depth and talent.
I think they need him. They need him. They need him because
big, strong, physical defender. He can score. He does the little things.
What happened? It's a weird situation where they have a lack of physicality and toughness at times. And when they play Cliff Amori or Mohamed Diabate, they get that physicality and that toughness, but then they lack a little bit of shooting on the offensive end of the floor. And Darian Reed's a guy that can kind of provide both of those things. Now, I think the better answer is Grant Nelson's got to be tougher than he's been. Like, he got his ass kicked by Mark Mitchell the other night. Ass kicked. And then today, he was one of the guys that, what do you have, 5 points tonight? He didn't play all that many minutes.
Nope.
So, I think
so hard when, like,
and LeBaron
you talk about
has come down to earth.
Yeah, you talk about Andrew Carr, right, and how high he was at the start of the game. You know who was guarding him at the start of the game? Grant Nelson.
I will say this, and I don't disagree with you at all. But I think this has been Nate's frustration with this group at times. He's frustrated by their lack of focus in the game,
and leadership,
and accountability. Yes. So they do things that would indicate that, and maybe this doesn't make it right, but maybe because you went to a Final Four last year, it's easier in the regular season to twiddle around a little bit. We'll show up to the NCAA tournament.
But how many players played big roles? Mark Sears and Grant Nelson. That was really it, and Sears should be the leader. He should be the leader, and he really hasn't been.
But he's not a guy that's wired to be.
You don't have to be a vocal leader.
I agree with you. But I also think that that's something that we probably could have seen coming with Sears. But I disagree with that. Like, I think that Alabama's going to be fine. Like, I'm not saying that they're going to be a Final Four. I think that they are probably – I would have them outside of the top four right now. To me, the top four in America is Duke, Auburn, Houston, and Florida. And I would probably go in that order, maybe flip-flop Houston and Florida, but I think it's those four. And then Alabama, to me, is right there with, like, Tennessee as the best of the rest.
I put Florida ahead of Houston because they beat Auburn at Auburn.
Me too. Mm-hmm. I would too.
All right,
I think Florida's more well-rounded.
Let's go to the Big Ten. This is the shocking result of the day. Yeah. It is. It's shocking. Wisconsin's up by 16 points in Madison. If I had told you that at the start of the day against Oregon, you would have said, all right, how much did they end up winning by?
Game is over.
Well, Dana Altman pulls one out of the hat.
Yeah.
Jackson Shellstead forces overtime. Mm-hmm. Nate Biddle scores 23, and Oregon gets to 9-8 in the Big Ten with a stunning 77-73 overtime win. Your reaction?
All-time choke job. All-time choke job from Wisconsin.
It was. And a heck of a win for an Oregon team that needed it. Mm-hmm. And maybe this Oregon team – they went through a tough stretch for a month or so. So good out of the gates. They won the Players era, won all that money in Vegas, and you wonder if maybe the money went to their head a little bit. Maybe they started shopping a little too much.
Maybe a little bit of that.
I don't know.
But here's what I wouldn't want to do. I do not want on Selection Sunday to be sitting around and then see, and it'll be a 7-10 showdown, and you're facing the Oregon Ducks.
Yeah, you're right. Because, again, Shellstad's talented. Nate Biddle, man. He missed a gimme at the end of regulation that I thought it was going to cost them, and it didn't. But Biddle, Shellstad, Dana Altman coaching that team. Yeah, they're not overpowering, but they are a team in the 7-10 you probably don't want to see.
Yeah, because it's Dana Altman and because they have really good guards. And just real quick on Oregon before I say what I got to say about Wisconsin. I think the difference is that the last 4 games, right? So they lost 5 in a row. Nate Biddle in the 5 games that they lost, averaging 8 points, 4 boards, 1.5 blocks.
Yeah, they can't win that way.
Nate Biddle in their 4-game winning streak since that ended 18.5 points, 8.3 rebounds, 3.3 blocks, and he was absolutely terrific. Absolutely terrific tonight. And he was the anchor defensively. Like when
He needs to be. He's so good. Like Nate Biddle. Nate Biddle should be one of the best big men in the country, not just on the West Coast. He should be consistent. He's been around forever. He could score in the post. He can step out. He can defend. Like, he's really, really good.
I'll elaborate this on the afters. Get to what you got to
we'll
get
get to that in the afters. I want to get to this while we have about 2.5 minutes for this and a toast from each of you. The Gonzaga Bulldogs are 12-4 in the WCC, and hello, bubble. Because if you look at that body of work, the projected metrics might be kind of them, but they're 12-4. St. Mary's is running away with this. They've run away with it. They're 15-1 after they sweep Gonzaga 74-67 at the Kennel. Amazing by Randy Bennett. And we can talk a little bit about him in the afters. But, Jeff, I can't help but watch this and think to myself, this is the worst Gonzaga team we've seen in years, 1 and 2. Yeah. Could this be it for Mark Few?
I've said this all year. And, again, I have no information about this. I'm just speculating, as I did with Tony Bennett. I think this could be it for Mark Few. I just think, he's one that doesn't love where the game's gone. He's made no secret of that. And now you've got a team that is just okay. Brian Michelson's going to be the head coach whenever he does decide to retire, their assistant. But now you've got a scenario where, honestly, Gonzaga could be a first four or maybe even left out if they lose their last 2 games at Santa Clara, at San Francisco, and if they lose in the semis, they get like a double bye.
That's the thing. It's like they have to –
They have to lose their next 3 games.
Yeah, they have to end poorly. But the problem is the middle of the WCC is better than anybody realizes and better than it's been in a long time because Santa Clara's got some NBA guys. Like they got some pros. Adama Ball, Elijah Mahi's better than people give him credit for. The big guy, Christoph Tilly. And San Francisco's been really good of late, and they're really good again this season. Chris Gurlifson's done a great job there. So those are losable games. Losable games in the Bay Area.
You got about 50 seconds here. Toast somebody on this fine college hoop Saturday.
I'm going to go, I think, Jeremiah Fears. 27 points, 10 assists, the freshman, who hit a little bit of a wall, in the middle of the season. But this was a game that Oklahoma had to get, and they did to, be a tournament team. They win it at home against Mississippi State.
My toast of the night is going to Dexter Akano at Utah State. He had 23 points. The Aggies knocked off San Diego State. Utah State is good enough to win a game or 2 in the tournament, guys.
And my toast tonight is going to go to the VCU Rams. Ryan Odom's done an amazing job. VCU beats George Mason, the biggest A-10 game of the season, 70-54. Max Scholga is really good, 22 points for him. The VCU Rams are 22-5 on the season, and based on what they've done the last 2 months, I believe they will get votes in the AP Top 25 on Monday. They have been that good in that league, and they take over the top spot. We've got the afters coming up next. We watch Duke put on a show and show everybody why they can win their first national title in a decade. He's Rob Dauster. He's Jeff Goodman. I'm John Fanta. We're back tomorrow at the Garden. Afters are next. Thanks for watching After Dark.
We're live. It's the afters.
Hit the chat.
I'm not getting close to any bear.
My career high on the court is 28. Welcome to the afters. Here we go. Get your questions in. Anything you want to know, anything at all. He's Jeff Goodman. He's Rob Dauster. I'm John Fanta. I do want to start the afters with this because it is a story that we didn't get to on our hour-long show. Some people are a little bit confused here. There have been some reports earlier tonight that Duke associate head coach, who's done a very nice job, and he's a star, Jay Lucas, and Miami is going to happen here. It feels inevitable at this point that he will be the next head coach at the U with the Miami Hurricanes. What can you tell us about the situation? Because there was a lot of mixed conversation here tonight.
Yeah, since they parted ways with Jim Larinaga, Dan Radakovich, their athletic director, has gone through an exhaustive search, and 2 names have really come to the forefront right now, and it is Jay Lucas and Richard Pitino. That's another name that they have looked heavily at right now, who's at New Mexico, done a great job the last couple of years. It appears as though Jay Lucas, according to my sources, is the guy who's the front runner right now. However, you just wonder if this thing is slow played because Duke's next game is at Miami. So do you want to put Jay Lucas in this situation? If he is going to be the guy, you probably want to wait till after that to get anything done. But again, I think Lucas is the favorite right now. John Lucas's son played at Texas, has been an assistant coach for a while here, young up and coming guy. Listen, this is a big step. I mean, it's a big step, and this is a job that has some resources now and will allocate them. I've been told, and then the other thing to kind of look for, I don't know if I should say it, but I will, is there's some connection here with Jay Lucas and the Boozers, the Boozer family. The Boozers are two of the top 25 players in the country.
Cameron Boozer has the potential to be 95% of what Cooper Flagg has been, like impact as a freshman.
They're just winning players.
Yes.
They've committed to Duke. Well, it was down to Duke in Miami,
and
where Carlos lives.
Here's the thing about that, Jeff. When that entire recruitment was going on, what did we hear the entire time?
Miami.
They're going to Miami.
They're going to stay in Miami for 8 months. They're winning players, man. So again, this is total speculation. But all of it is right now because Jay Lucas doesn't have the job.
I just love when you're like, I'm just totally speculating here. I'm just throwing shit against the wall, seeing what could work. Why would I say this?
No, it's in the air because it was
going to be out there. Yeah. I mean, listen, if Jay Lucas gets the job, trust me, it's going to be out there. So we'll get ahead of it like we do on this show.
When I saw the post about Jay Lucas, the first thing that I saw after that was, oh no, does that mean the Boozers are going with him? So it's fans are not dumb. They're going to put together those connections.
We got a bunch of other stuff to hit on. I do want to hit on this one because this is a bad bubble loss. Texas goes to Columbia. South Carolina got their first SEC win. But for Texas, that is a brutal, brutal loss for a team that was squarely on the bubble. And you can just feel the pressure mounting in Austin on Rodney Terry and his staff when you lose a game like that.
So I'm going to throw it back to you on which one was worse, Texas losing at South Carolina or Wake Forest losing to NC State.
Wake Forest losing to NC State because South Carolina at least is playing the other SEC teams. Yeah. Wake Forest is dead.
You think so? I mean, it'd be hard because in the ACC,
they're done.
They're going to have to make a deep run in the ACC tournament, probably to the title game or get a shot at Duke and beat them.
Yes, provided that they don't do that.
Right. It's hard to say anybody's dead because, as you said earlier, the bubble is about as soft as it gets. So you can come back from the dead these days on this bubble.
I know, but they lost at home to Florida State.
Listen, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. They've lost,
and both those guys are in precarious positions, right? Rodney Terry, we know how he got the job, right? He got the job because he did well after Chris Beard was fired. He took over as the interim, and I was the lead person who said you had to keep him. Mm-hmm. You had to keep him at that point. Now, what I said is if you do keep him, make it a very contract-friendly for the university to do so with a low buyout. Now, Texas has all the money in the world, so it probably doesn't matter.
I wanted to ask you two a question because we didn't get enough time on the show at the top because we had so much to get to. Cooper Flagg is the best freshman talent since?
Well, it's hard to say because, again, he's so different. He's so unique. So that's
why I asked the question.
Yeah.
It's not an easy answer.
I think
people are wondering.
I think he is the best prospect that we've seen in college basketball, I would say, since Kevin Durant. I'd say he's a better prospect than Anthony Davis.
Going back close to 20
I'm
years.
ready to say he's a better prospect than Zion Williamson. And the reason that I say that
I wouldn't say that
but
AD.
all of the stuff that he is doing right now, he's doing as a high school senior. Every one of those other guys were a year older than him playing against that competition. And you know what else they were doing? They were playing that competition when the one and done was funneling players out of college basketball. And now we're looking at an era where Cooper Flagg is playing against
Hold on.
23-year-olds, 24-year-olds,
I mean, I'm looking it up
25-year-olds.
here and like
He's doing research.
I'm just saying, like maybe, but like last I checked, Paolo's pretty damn good. Paolo's pretty damn good.
And if you would have given me the choice between Paolo Banchero coming out of college or Cooper Flagg coming out of college, I'm taking Cooper Flagg. If you were going to give me the choice between Anthony Davis coming out of college or Cooper Flagg coming out of college,
would you take this Duke team over that Paolo Duke team?
probably, yeah.
Anthony Edwards is pretty good in the NBA right now. I mean,
I
love
coming out of college.
no,
you would have taken Cooper Flagg 100 times out of hundreds.
100.
Agree.
But
I think it's because of the impact that he can have defensively. It is because he has proven that he can be a shooter. His body looks different now than it did when we saw him in the Champions Classic. He looks like he's put on like 10 pounds of muscle. Like his shoulders are broader, right? He has this ability to be able to, when he gets by people and he decides he's going to go make a move, like he gets his shoulders low, his first step is so long, and he explodes through. Like he's going up down there tonight. He was going up against, I think it was Tomislav Ivicic, right? And he just jumped through his chest and finished with his left hand like it was nothing. And he's supposed to be a high school senior. And if you need him,
never been built like a high school. You know, even when we first saw him, he was strong.
You know what else I like?
He was strong. He was never like super thin. He was always strong, tough. I mean, he's terrific. It's going to be interesting to see what he is at the next level. Is he a guy you can build your franchise around?
I think that he will be, yes.
As one scout put it, when I asked him what he thought, he said, guaranteed number 2 guy on an NBA team
100%.
with the upside of being a number 1, which is why he's the number 1 pick in the draft.
But okay, so if that's the case, if he's a fringe number 1, 2, you know, I'm talking if you're putting him in that class better than Paolo, like Paolo is going to be a top 10 player in the NBA.
Yeah, and I think that Cooper Flagg is going to be a top 10 player in the NBA. And I don't think anybody thought Paolo was going to be a top 10 player in the NBA when he was in college. If you remember, it wasn't until like the day before the draft that people were saying that he was going to be the number 1 pick. We thought that Jabari Smith was a better prospect than him.
We serve the viewers. We serve the fans who are still tuning in. We're waiting also on BYU Arizona. So, Dagan Hughes, you have some questions. Go ahead.
Hello, gentlemen. We're going to keep it with this game that you guys were just talking about. Josh Carter wants to know, how many more losses can Illinois afford? They seem like they're in free fall.
Well,
I think they're fine.
Yeah,
they're fine to get in. It's just what are they going to look like?
I don't
think
they
want to be seed-wise.
I don't think they're missing the tournament. You know, I don't think that that's going to be something that they are at risk of.
25 in KenPom coming into today. They only have, I mean, they're going to beat Iowa at home.
Actually, you know what? I take that back, man. They got Iowa at home,
so
then they're at Michigan, and then they get Purdue at home. And if they lose those 2 games, you're 18-13 overall. And you're getting kind of close.
500 in the Big Ten. And you're going to get in.
And you're getting
look at the bubble. Look at the bubble. Of course you're going to get in.
You would have said that last year, and then four bubbles burst. Like you're playing with fire. You're playing with fire. Like you're telling me that you don't think like Santa Clara can go on a run and win WCC tournament. Let's just say you get someone out of the WCC, right? And St. Mary's is dancing. That VCU is an at-large team, and somebody else wins the A-10 tournament. That's 2 that are gone.
That could happen.
Yes,
that could happen.
Let's say
I think I'll predict that will happen.
Sure, that's probably the most likely.
Let's say Boise State.
Who else is winning in the SEC? Nobody.
I mean, but let's say Boise State, right?
Fine, fair.
Yeah. The ACC is probably going to end up being Duke, but
maybe somebody else.
There's 15 other options in Duke. Right, sure. The Big East tournament.
I kind of have a weird
Xavier
the ACC
about the Big East tournament.
The Big East tournament, something can
happen in the Big East tournament.
All I'm saying is that if you're one of those teams that is in a little bit of a free fall, like Illinois is,
picking the Blue Demons.
No, I'm not. I'm not picking the Blue Demons. Why did you? Let's not. I'm not going to go kick DePaul.
Who you picking? I want to know. You're teasing the fact that you
Xavier's winning the Big East tournament. I'll say it. Xavier's winning the Big East tournament. Xavier's winning it.
I think that Georgetown and Villanova will be playing in a Big East semifinal, and one of them will then be in the final.
If Sorber's playing.
Yeah, I think he will be playing.
Right.
And I think one of those two teams will be in a Big East final. And I'm not saying that's good enough to make the tournament. That's as far as bold as I'll go. I think a bid stealer will be in the final.
Yeah, it could happen.
I think it's one every 4 or 5 years that you see something crazy. When you look at it, Marquette's gone downhill.
Yep.
Creighton is they're good, but they're a good team, but they're not like otherworldly. And St. John's is very, very good.
Yeah, but they're beatable. They're not unbeatable.
Yeah, you'll see them live tomorrow. Dagan, you have another question?
I'm actually going to skip the question for a second. Again, we didn't talk about it yet. I know it wasn't a close game or anything, but Auburn. We haven't touched on Auburn yet tonight.
Janai Broome, 31 points, 14 boards, 4 assists, was absolutely dominant. I think I have a question for you guys. So Auburn has kind of come back to earth here in the last couple of weeks.
They're 25-2.
No. But they're not.
What do you mean they come down to earth? They're playing closer games.
They're playing closer games. They're not running people. They're not running people off the floor. If you look at if you go and check Torvik over the course of the last 15 days. No, seriously. If you look at Torvik over the last 15 days, they're outside.
You spent all day shopping for the shirt.
Yeah, all day.
Stanford Steve did ask what size the shirt is.
Is it?
Yeah. It's an XL.
It's not burger.
It's a medium.
No, it's an XL. The shirt hasn't gotten smaller. Rob's gotten bigger.
Dagan, put in the chat what size do the fans think that the shirt is. They've come back to okay, so the games are close.
Well, no. So my question is this teams figuring Auburn out? Is this something where Auburn has kind of said, look, we know we're probably going to end up winning. See, we don't have to kick it into high gear to win all of these games. It's
harder for them to get motivated every game?
That's my question. Is that just what this is?
Sure. I think there's a little bit of that at this point of the season. Because now if you're Auburn, you're trying to fast forward. You want to get to the tournament now.
Because the caveat is, they didn't look great against Vandy. They didn't look great against Georgia, but they went into Alabama and they ripped Alabama's soul.
Right, when they wanted to play.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good argument. Yeah. I mean, I also think there's a degree of figuring out what Auburn's offense is, which was otherworldly for 2 months to start the season.
Couldn't
and part of that is a regression to the mean a little bit. Like they were shooting
the hell out of it.
Everybody. And if you look at today, Miles Kelly and Denver Jones shot a combined 2 for 10. If you're facing Auburn in the Final Four, which
Pettiford did make shots,
I guarantee Auburn will be in the Final Four. They're going to make the Final Four. I know that it's a tournament.
This is the Charles Barkley guarantee.
Yeah, well, Charles is going to be with the Auburn. He's going to be with them. He might have a live tiger in San Antonio with the women of San Antonio. That Charles has. It's going to be interesting with Charles.
I have a question for you guys.
My thing is that if I'm playing them, I'm like, please, dear Lord, it's a football stadium, and maybe their guards don't shoot it as well.
Right.
Which has happened before in the Final
Four. They're pretty good shooters. I mean, those guys have done it.
We got a situation here. I mean, at the McHale Center, Arizona has lost 5 total home games in the last 4 years. And right now, Arizona is down by 4 with a minute left at home to BYU, who just bludgeoned Kansas and got off the bubble. I mean, BYU, if you look at their metrics, Rob, they're top 25-ish in those. Like,
you want to play BYU right now?
No, I think BYU, I said this the other day, I think BYU is the most dangerous team in college basketball outside of the top 25.
Nobody's talking about
the most dangerous team outside of the top 25. They have size. They're veterans. They can guard a little bit. They can shoot a lot of it. And they have a guy in Yegor Demon that is a top 10 talent in college basketball, a potential top 5-ish kind of a pick. And he started out great when they were playing nobody, hit a little bit of a rough patch in the middle of the season as he was starting to adjust. He had, like 13-8 right now against Arizona on the road. Richie Saunders has really developed into a really good scorer. They got some size and physicality inside, and Kevin Young is a hell of a coach, man. They got a chance.
14 of 31 from 3. They could shoot the crap out of the ball.
I also felt like Arizona's good, but they got off to such a bad start to start the season, and then they went in a run, and I was like, all right, there's somewhere in between those. Mm-hmm. They're not overpowering good.
Richie Saunders and 1 to put him up 4 in the last minute.
Look at this.
How good is Saunders?
He's been awesome. I mean, he's been – again, you look at, again, taking over and retaining key pieces that aren't the most talented guys, but they're part of that BYU culture, and then you bring in Yegor in, and he's just talented, And the kid Mag's been around. So they've got older kids as well.
Do you think that, I mean, it certainly doesn't harm, but let's say they make the tournament, they win a game, or they won 2 and made the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Knowing DeBance's coming in, and they've got NIL money,
Yep.
right? Like, it's not like they're emptying everything on just DeBanca. Like,
most of it, but sure.
But I'm saying, if you're a transfer
Yep.
and you're thinking about next destination,
no,
could
I don't.
BYU be the?
I mean, personally, I don't want to play with AJ. I just don't. I know he's going to get most of the shots. That's all.
It depends on.
I know he's going to want to.
My question was, do you think this is going to work
for next year?
Yeah,
I think this is
really
huge
good
for Kevin Young this year to get in because it takes the pressure off next year if things don't go as well.
Caleb
because
Love
we don't
just
know.
buried a 3.
Yeah, are you going to apologize to Caleb Love now?
Oh.
Why?
He just hit a 3 to cut it to 1.
What's Caleb Love done? No, he's actually had a good game.
Yeah, he's been
7 to 16, 4-9. This is Carolina Caleb. This is efficient Carolina Caleb. 25 points, playing very well tonight.
Carolina won today.
Yeah.
Carolina did.
They did.
They won.
They won. They beat Virginia, right?
Yes.
Everybody beats
a win. Hey, look, if you're Carolina, a win is a win.
No,
is a win
you
right
can't
now.
lose.
Hey,
Right?
while we're waiting
win
for
is a
this
win
to
is a
wrap
win.
up, while we're waiting for
What
this
else we
game to
got?
wrap up, we got Mountain West. We had San Diego State and Utah State, and in Logan it was rocking. The Utah State Aggies are 24-4. Dexter Acano had 26 points. San Diego State drops to 18-7. They've been hovering around that bubble conversation. Utah State 14-3. New Mexico 14-2. The top of the Mountain West is so much fun.
It always is. I mean, it always is now. And again, it doesn't matter. I think you can throw Dauster in coaching in Logan, and they get to the tournament.
I'm a pretty good coach.
You are not a good coach. Your son just told me earlier today he liked the fill-in coach today.
No, he actually had my back. The truth is, he actually had my back. I was expecting him to be like, I like the other coach better. He had my back, so I was like, yeah, that's my man.
The fill-in coach?
Yeah, his name is Ryan Grant. He is actually Steve Shear's nephew-in-law, I guess. And he wore a shirt to practice that said, "Rob Dauster can't guard me." So
we love Steve Shear.
Yeah.
By the way, he's recovering from a medical procedure. Steve is, for those who don't know, he is Fox Sports' leading college basketball producer. Yeah. He's a great man. He's given so much to the game. In fact, I want to thank Steve because he made this game possible.
Did he?
And others in the works. He made this game.
Yeah.
He made this game.
No surprise.
And it is a priority. This is something you talk with John Shire about. Yeah. This is not the last time we're going to see something like this.
No, he told me before the game. He's like, we're doing this next year. And why wouldn't you want to be? Well, yes, there's another. The opponent might not want to be involved after watching this game.
Well,
they may have trouble getting somebody.
The good news
will be involved back in a game here, and is talking with a blue blood about a game here.
The good news for whoever would end up playing Duke in the Garden is that Cooper Flagg won't be there next year.
Well, they're trying to raise money for him.
Neither will Colin Knippel.
Isn't there something going on where they're trying to raise money to keep Cooper here?
No free ads.
What?
No free ads.
I don't know what that means.
I'll tell you later. No free ads.
Running around
I have
here.
no
free
idea
ads.
what that means.
No free ads. Yeah, Utah State though, Fana, really impressive win for them. I think that it's a 3-bid Mountain West at minimum. I think Utah State's dancing. I think San Diego State's dancing. I think New Mexico's dancing.
Yep.
And Boise State picked off Nevada today on the road.
They did.
And Boise State picked off San Diego State on when was that? When did they beat them? Was it last Saturday? I think it was last Saturday.
It was last Saturday.
Yeah.
New Mexico.
Sorry, New Mexico.
This past Wednesday.
And that was a big win for them. And they're creeping up a little bit closer to that bubble picture. They are not quite there yet, but Boise State's a team I would not want to see in the Mountain West tournament with their backs against the wall.
Yep.
Alvaro Cardenas is maybe my favorite interview this side of Maxine Randolph, by the way.
Wow.
It was awesome.
It's high praise.
I got one for
it was
you.
awesome.
Heading into tomorrow.
Go ahead.
Purdue is at Indiana. The line is 3.5.
Wow.
Do you think that Mike Woodson could pull it off?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
If they won that game, they could be on the right side of the
He's
bubble.
actually had his number for the most part over the last couple of years. Purdue beat him earlier this year, but Mike Woodson's had Paint's number. So, I mean, imagine I still say
made it?
If they made the tournament, I mean, they could. If they win this game, they get to next 4 out.
I told you that's what I'm rooting for.
You want to see it?
He is
I know
Mike
what I wanna
Woodson
see.
has never acknowledged that he is retiring.
That's true.
He has
That is true.
never said I'm
Do you think he
retiring.
will?
He kind of did after one game in the post game, sort of alluded to the fact that I want to make sure, since I'm going out, I want to make sure my players, something to that effect.
Yeah.
But
Well,
never really directly said.
But the
No, I'm
the
not.
Do you think
messiest.
he will acknowledge it?
At the end of the year, I guess. I mean, I said this before. Like, what if he does go on a little bit of a run? He just says one day, after a win, he gets up there and
I think
says,
I'm going to stay.
"Yeah, I have second thoughts."
That's what I want. That's what I want to have happen. I think that I'm here for the mess. I'm here for the drama. That's the messiest
know
thing
what
that
I
could
want?
possibly happen.
I want a first 4 game in Dayton between Mike Woodson, Indiana, and John
Oh,
Kelly.
that'd be great.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm rooting for. Yes, let's
I'm
go.
in.
Great
Absolutely.
call,
You're in?
Vanna. Great
yeah.
call.
Would
And
you
then the
go?
other one, let's get Carolina.
It's not going to happen.
No, probably not. Probably.
Would you
not.
go to the game?
Miss
No, I
front
would not
end.
go. I would not
Uh-oh.
go.
Miss front end.
Arizona has, I'm going to do play-by-play here, 13 seconds. Driving in, and Arizona, it's going to be on the floor. No shot. A foul with 12.5 seconds
Caleb.
left. Caleb Love's going to go to the line.
Wow.
He's going to go in the line. Double bonus, so it's 2 free throws. Arizona's down 1. Dagan, you have a question while we're waiting. Go ahead.
I do. We've been talking about all these high majors tonight. Someone in the chat wants to know most dangerous mid-major in March, or who can be.
Most dangerous mid-major.
I would put McNeese State in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I would put Drake in that conversation.
It'd be Drake for me. It'd be Drake. I love Bennett starts.
Let me bring up Ken Palm just so I can get some of these teams in front of me. UC San Diego is certainly one of those teams that's in that mix.
Yeah, we just talked to Eric Olin.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of who else would be in the mix there.
Caleb made the first.
A High Point.
I would say dangerous.
I would say Drake. Pat Scarry wrapped up the CAA today.
Regular season.
Yeah, they want to share.
I will say this: the CAA champion this year, and I think my gut says it's going to be Towson with Tyler Tejada and Dylan Williamson, or UNCW, who's good with Bo Montgomery and Donovan Newby. Champion of that league could go. You know who's a team that's got a pretty good story?
Go ahead.
I don't know if they could pull it off, but I think they're going to be a 13 or a 14. South Alabama. They got some guard play.
I know, but they got they're in like a logjam still a little bit.
They are, but I'm saying if they were to ever make it, I watched a couple of games of theirs. Arkansas State.
Caleb Love made the second. BYU ball.
Arizona leads 95-94 with 13 seconds to go.
You know,
Akron too. Akron did lose today, but if Akron is really dangerous again, and the MAC champion. Oh, you know who else we're discounting? Yale.
That's who I was going to say. Yeah,
James
That's
Jones.
what I was going to we say. At what point? How come
we need a rematch? Yale Auburn. It won't happen.
Yeah. Here's my question, Jeff, and I've always wondered this.
Yeah.
Why is James Jones still at Yale? He's turned Yale into the power, the juggernaut in the Ivy League. He's been there for like 25 years. Is it just as simple as he's getting older? He's been there forever, and
it's hard to get out of those academic leagues. Once you're in them, it's really hard. I remember his brother, Joe Jones. I think they were in the America East first, and then they went back into the Patriot League. And I think Joe knew, all right, it's going to be harder to get out now.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're in the Patriot and the Ivy, it is very difficult to get out of those leagues. But James Jones,
why is that?
You should get this stigma that all you can recruit are academic kids.
Meanwhile, really good players.
I don't think that's the case for everybody, but it is the case for some of those guys. Some of those guys that's kind of where their bread is buttered.
I forgot to, and logjam at the top of the sleeve. But if they were to make it, Honor Huff, Bosch Wieland, and the
guards, man,
Chattanooga Mocs, Coach Earl. Yeah. The brothers Earl are.
I would say Drake. Drake to me would be the one after having seen them. And seeing that they have a point guard that I will put up against almost any point guard in the country. And they have a connectivity, and they have shooters, and they have a really good coach.
I agree.
I would say Drake would be the one that to me would scare me the most.
It's just more about the fact that, and I totally agree. It's more about the fact that in the NCAA tournament, there's always one or two. We find Cinderella, and we don't say them. It's not always obvious. Look at Drake last year.
No idea.
They played Washington State.
Yeah.
How many people had McNeese State winning their first round game against Gonzaga?
Nobody.
A lot of No, a lot of people. Did.
Everybody
one, right?
Yeah.
Everybody picked it.
And then they ended up winning
And then
by.
ended up going.
That's right.
By the way, Gonzaga. I mean, now they're on the bubble. They've made 9 Sweet 16s.
I know. This is amazing. Amazing how close they are. I mean, Baylor is far off the bubble right now after losing today.
They're not.
Colorado.
They'll be on the bubble, but it's.
We're told by our bracketologists.
Look at that.
Dagan Hughes
has become a actual bracketologist. Wow. Didn't you have to go to school for that, Dagan?
No one can hear me.
I would
No,
like
I
to
did
see your
not.
diploma from Joe Lenardi's
Did not have to go to
bracketology
school for that. He did go to
They
school.
didn't have that at Seton Hall.
His alma mater's in action tomorrow. That's where I will be, where Sean Miller and Xavier.
Oh, that's right.
They
Down the
visit
road?
to the hall.
Not that far?
Xavier has to win.
Yeah, you think?
If they keep winning. Here we go. BYU's got it. 5 seconds to go. In the lane with 3.
Nope.
Floater.
Foul.
They called it at McHale.
Foul.
A foul is called
2.6.
with 2.6. BYU's going to go to the line and try to win the game.
Townsend.
Oh, my goodness. If
Yeah.
this game goes to overtime, we're going to toss it to a special edition
Just
of the
us there.
post-game
Solo.
show. No, it's actually going to be John Martin.
We're going to throw it to him. That's right.
All right. While we wait, I have 2 takes I want to.
Definitely up.
I have 2 takes I want to fire off
sober.
at you guys.
Still no. He's
While we wait
not
for the
on
free
this game.
throws, I got 2 takes I want to fire off at you guys. And I want to see what your opinion is on this. Okay,
one, two.
One. I'm starting to get really worried about what Kentucky can be, because it doesn't seem like Lamont Butler and Jackson Robinson are getting closer to being back.
But we don't know that. We don't know that yet, Rob. They may be doing the smart thing here, and those guys might be able to come back now, and Mark Pope might be saying, you know what? We'll give him another week.
I'm sorry, we got
Which would be the smart move, right?
I don't know what's going on here, but Coach Young was just pissed off at the official.
Yeah, they're checking the time.
Wouldn't you do that, Rob? Even if they were ready today. Let's say they were ready today. Now, the difference between being, what are they now? Dagan, what's Kentucky in our latest? 5? 4? Third?
They're 3.
3. Okay,
yeah.
so let's say, for argument's sake, you sit these guys for another week, then they go from a 3 to a 4, or even a 5. Wouldn't you rather have them at 100%?
Yeah, I would, but it's
because you're not going anywhere without them at 100. So I would sit Lamont.
You might be right.
I would sit Lamont until.
Do you
game
think
before the?
he rattled home the first. He rolled it home. He rolled it home. It was really tough to watch them run offense in the second half.
Because they don't have a point
They
guard.
do have a point guard. And look, the whole Amari
The
Williams
fact that they've been able to do this
has been incredible.
Right.
By the way,
Has been
Since
incredible.
the start of the 2021-22 season, so now back 3 seasons, Arizona is 58-5 at the McHale Center. Second free throw's good.
Was that Richie Saunders?
96-95.
give it to
Arizona-
Carolina, Caleb.
Arizona has no timeouts.
Carolina-
3 seconds left.
Oh,
Baseball pass picked off. BYU has
Wow.
gone into McHale. BYU should be ranked. They beat Arizona.
wow!
The most dangerous
What a
team.
win.
It's a
The
huge-
most dangerous team
right
outside of the
back-to-back.
top 25.
They're ranked.
Unbelievable.
I'm ranking.
Unbelievable. Rank BYU, rank St. Mary's. The most
Well, St. Mary's should already be ranked.
they're not ranked.
I don't think I had them.
Yeah.
Ranked.
They're not
Come
ranked.
on.
They're right
Do
there.
you want to argue?
They're right
wanna
there.
argue over
No,
top
I have
20?
no desire. I tap out of all arguments with top 25.
Really
right now.
impressive beat performance tonight from the reporter pool.
Yeah, you were over there. You weren't even looking down at your computer. Everybody else was. Norlander was locked in. Borzello locked in. Zagoria. Supposedly there was a little bit of a ruckus with Zagoria
in the
when
press
we left
room.
in the press room.
Yeah, he had a Zoom call with someone.
Got a little
Sweeney
loud.
was rolling. We
Yeah.
had it was a full. They were going 10 deep here. This was great.
Inside
more-
baseball right
The
now.
more college hoops weekends the Garden has this time of year, where they could feature a non-conference game, and then very smart to have UConn St. John's this deep into the season. But what do you expect tomorrow before we go?
Hatred. A lot of hatred in the building.
Both
Not
fan bases
hatred
are-
to Rick Pitino, because there's going to be a lot of Johnny's fans in here who are going to be rolling
What will
out the
split
red
be?
carpet.
What will the split be?
I don't know. Rob thinks it's 90-10.
No, it'll be like 75-25.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's going to be very red in here.
What do you think of the matchup?
I think that UConn is going to show up. I think they're going to play well. But I think that St. John's defense and their ability to force turnovers against a team that does not have the necessary backcourt depth.
They're gonna get after them.
I have a take.
That's the problem.
I have a take about UConn for this season that I'm going to save to see what happens in this game.
Well, that's just
before
it.
I say it.
St.
I
John's
can't
going to
wait
get
for this
after
game.
UConn defensively, and Diarra's not 100%.
Right.
Mahaney, this is where it's a tough matchup for UConn.
You can't throw Aiden Mahaney in the
long
game.
athletic.
I'm not even sure Aiden Mahaney can play.
What were you going to say just now about the game?
I've just looked forward to this game more than almost any game that I've.
Oh, we got some extracurriculars between BYU and Arizona.
Yeah, of course you do.
Caleb
right in the middle of it.
Caleb Love with some trash talk to BYU's players.
It looked like BYU's players. Wait, can I give you one last take before we go? The last take that I had.
Can you give us one last take before we go?
The Wisconsin meltdown. The Wisconsin meltdown today was something that is extremely concerning to me. Big picture.
Oh, come on.
Blew a 14-point lead at home.
Yeah.
Blew a 14-point lead at home. Threw the ball away 3 or 4 times in the last minute against pressure. The last couple of possessions, they could not get the ball to their best player, John Tanji. It was a really concerning way for that game to end when they had everything in front of them to play for.
I'm not that concerned.
They were still in the mix for the Big Ten regular season
You
championship.
said extremely concerning.
Yeah.
Extremely concerning.
No, I don't. I wouldn't.
Extremely concerning.
No. Hell no.
All right. That's going to do it for us. What time are we on tomorrow? Special time.
I think it's going to be 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock Eastern. We're going to go almost immediately after that UConn St. John's game. It's the game of the day.
Dagan, what did you text us, Dagan? You know who else threw the ball away under pressure? Who?
The UConn Huskies, and I am extremely concerned about the UConn Huskies as well, Dagan Hughes. You know what the best part about that is?
Thank you, Dagan.
You know what I'm rooting for? You know what I cannot wait for? I cannot wait to look up and see teams like UConn or VCU missing the NCAA tournament because Seton Hall is a bad loss on their resume.
That's our contribution.
Seton Hall is a bad loss, quad 4 loss on their resume. We got
tomorrow is going to be big. Big in here. It's going to be a great atmosphere inside this building. 3 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow for a full breakdown of that game and elsewhere around the country, a full weekend recap because, Purdue, Indiana will be at 1:30. So you guys will be able to break that down.
Yep.
I got a funny feeling about Assembly Hall tomorrow. I don't know why, but we'll see. It'll be a loaded day of college basketball. This was a fun night. We watched why Duke can cut down the nets for the first time in a decade tonight. And you're back in less than 12 hours. So get some sleep. He's Rob Dauster. He's Jeff Goodman. I'm John Fan. Thanks to Dagan. Thanks to Trevor. Thanks to our entire crew. Good night, everybody. And we'll see you tomorrow right here from the Garden for UConn and St. John's.